I have been playing MMORPGs for 15 years, and in those years, I've been almost every kind of player you can think of, from a PvP smash monkey to a hardcore raider. I have truly done almost all types of content throughout this genre, and while I haven't played every MMO out there, I can say with confidence that I've been going about MMOs all wrong. In the last 2 to 3 years, my perspective and beliefs about MMOs have had time to grow, or mature would be a better word, I guess. I believe that casual players may have been right all along, and I'm here to present to you, the viewer, my findings. For any longtime viewers watching, you'll remember a video I made about 3 years ago where I basically said, solo players kill MMORPGs. To this day, that is one of my worst videos I have ever created. I was 3 years younger and had different priorities. Hopefully with this video, I can better communicate my thoughts and show you how much can change in just a few years' time. I don't know about you guys, but what always captivated me about MMORPGs was the ability to create your own character in a fantasy world. Whether it's the galaxy of Star Wars to the world of Tamriel, you could always play as you, or someone completely different if you wanted to. Then you could go out in an in-depth journey, fighting various enemies, aligning yourself with a particular faction or group, while progressing your story, while at the same time getting stronger with every level up. That was and still is one of the main reasons I play MMOs today. There isn't an experience quite like it in any other genre. You could argue that there are plenty of non-MMO games that do this, but I think the genres don't quite hit the mark like an MMORPG. Usher in the multiplayer aspect. One of the first and fondest memories I had playing an MMORPG was my very first group invite. In a game full of tens of thousands of people, you have a chance to meet all sorts of characters. Some players may even live in your same city or state if you're in the US. Some other players may live on the other side of the world. The different experiences you can get from this type of game just feels more genuine than grouping up in, say, a COD or Halo lobby. As a child, I would often rush through my schoolwork, run downstairs, and jump on whatever MMO I was playing at the time because I knew the friends I had made were about to get on. We would have a whole schedule planned out, from getting through dungeons, PvP raids, to crafting races. This activity consumed my teenage years, and after this brief history of why I play MMOs, I'll pass the question on to you. Why we play this type of game varies from person to person, I'm sure. Maybe you're a solo player who doesn't enjoy the social aspects that these games provide. Maybe you'd rather gather materials and sell your goods to other players without having to interact with them in a more personal way. Or maybe you enjoy role-playing in a tavern or cantina. The possibilities are almost endless. Once you've found your reason, hold on to that for the remainder of this video. I don't want to spend too much time on why we get into MMOs at the moment because it's only a portion of what I think really matters. I understand that a majority of MMO players today have an average age of 25, so we can address more important elements to my theory of casual players having it right. The official definition of the term hobby is as follows: an activity done regularly in one's leisure time for pleasure. This has always fascinated me for a few reasons. Outside of the definition just displayed, how else could we quantify a hobby? Does it come down to how many hours you spend on it per week? Does it equate to the type of content you're playing? When I hear someone has a hobby, I think about an activity that is done in one's spare time. That could be maybe 2 hours a week in some cases. Everyone's situation is different. I couldn't find an official number for the average time a player spends per week on an MMO, so I unfortunately had to go to Reddit. Some people spend anywhere from 2 hours a day to 10 hours a day. The average that I was seeing in the responses was about 3 to 4 hours per day. Now, if this is what they choose to do with their free time, more power to them. I'm not talking about this to pass judgment at all. This does tell me that at least a portion of the community spends almost as much time on an MMO as a full-time job, and I found that to be pretty interesting, mainly because that doesn't seem like a hobby. It seems like something else. A lifestyle. The definition of lifestyle is the way in which a person or group lives. That's pretty broad, but I'll break it down a little bit. To me personally, playing an MMO for an average of 25 to 30 hours per week for months, if not years, seems to be more like a lifestyle choice than a hobby done in one's leisure. If you're playing a game for that much time weekly, you're probably extremely knowledgeable in that particular title. You know the best ways to grind mobs, get better gear, or how to defeat bosses in the most efficient way possible, versus if you're someone that only plays 2 to 3 hours per week, you have limited knowledge, assuming you're not researching the game at other points throughout your day when you're not playing the game. Both of these players are not playing wrong in the traditional sense. I have been on both sides of this. Growing up, I would meet players who were 10 to 15 years older than myself. I would be playing for 6 to 8 hours every single day. Even when I got into my young adult years, I would still play for that long. I didn't see an issue. It was my hobby, or so I thought. It was something I enjoyed doing, and I figured that playing all of those hours didn't affect how I viewed the game or my playing experience. But I was mistaken. We've all been there. We've all put hundreds, if not thousands of hours playing our favorite MMO of choice. We've all had moments where we get into a group dungeon and we were clearly the best player on the team. And we've all gotten frustrated when some less experienced players mess up mechanics or don't come into an activity properly geared. This can be annoying for a few reasons. Maybe we just don't have the time and just want to get a run completed, or maybe we just aren't having a good day. Regardless, I've noticed that the more casual players don't seem to mind these various mistakes in gameplay. Now, this isn't me saying that it's perfectly fine to come into an activity with other people to just not care. That's not a great attitude and not respectful of other people's time. But what I am saying is that over the years of playing your MMO of choice, there's this weird switch that happens. You go from a hobbyist to a lifestyle player in most cases, and with that comes a host of new emotions. For the sake of this video, I do want to create some benchmarks for us. While these aren't official, we're just going to use this for the video's sake. I'll define the casual player as anyone playing from 1 to 15 hours per week, intermediate will be around 15 to 30 hours per week, and hardcore will be anything over 30 hours more per week. Gaming as a lifestyle is not necessarily bad. There are plenty of great careers and livelihoods that have been established because of this. The way I've always felt about gaming as a lifestyle was, if you're meeting your real life obligation, who cares if you spend 10 hours a day on a video game? I still generally feel this way, even though I don't personally play that much a day on an MMO. I mentioned just briefly that a lifestyle of gaming brings on new emotions that the casual player generally will not have. Speaking for myself, of course, I was very invested into my first 2 MMORPGs that I played. This was neither good or bad, but because of that emotional attachment that had been created, I was much more invested in the game than a casual player would be. Obviously, the different changes that the developers were making stirred various emotions in me back in the day. It would control a major portion of my time. Part of that can be attributed to me being a teenager and not having other priorities, I understand. But that can be said for anything you play as a child. I genuinely felt like I was a part of the game itself. Many MMO players can relate to this sentiment. You grow attached to your character and the stories you go through along the way. Not to mention, if you're someone who plays with others online, that emotional connection is even further strengthened by the relationships you've cultivated. Whether you're a casual player or not, there will always be some level of emotional attachment to the game because of your character and how you choose to interact within the world. I was so emotionally invested into Star Wars: The Old Republic that I couldn't move on from the game until I had spoken to many players that I had grown up playing the game with. Some of those people I haven't spoken to in almost 10 years, and it was hard getting those connections back up. The connection element is always present in these games, whether you're a casual player or a hardcore player. I just think that the emotional element when it comes to MMORPGs is not discussed nearly as much as I think it should be when we're talking about stuff like this. Alright, Alright, this part could get long, so bear with me please. I've been making YouTube videos since 2009. I didn't start making gaming videos until 2013. This channel didn't even exist until 2015. How we interact with games outside of actually playing them is, in my opinion, one of the most impactful metrics when it comes to being a casual or a hardcore player. I used to solely create YouTube videos around the MMO Star Wars: The Old Republic, like I just mentioned a few moments ago. 99% of those videos are private now, but for the first 6 years of this channel's life, I almost exclusively covered that game, from patch notes to expansion and guides to guild and community drama. As a teenager, I loved being that involved in the community. There was almost something new to talk about every single day, and because of my passion for SWTOR and the hours that I was putting in, everything just felt natural. It felt like it was what I was supposed to be doing at the time. I would make these long commentary videos about anything and everything SWTOR. People liked the content, and I liked making it. What I didn't realize at the time was that I was beginning to sour on the game because of this type of content. I guess you could view this as a classic burnout situation, but I do think there's more to it. I think sometimes players can get wrapped up too much in discussion over various games. It's important to discuss various things as a community. It doesn't have to be through a video. It can be through a forum or a Discord server. There are many ways for people to make conversation. However, I believe that there's a breakdown where it becomes almost more than a conversation and becomes its own monster. Gaming is incredibly subjective. There is rarely a one-size-fits-all solution to any problem within a game. It oftentimes gets taken too far, which I believe makes people burn out on a game well before they normally would had they just played the game and not interacted with it outside of actually playing so much. I'll pose it to you this way. When you play an MMO, why are you interested in it? Is it the game, or is it what's being said about the game? I find that many times external factors beyond the game itself influence our level of enjoyment over something that is supposed to be fun. Let's dive a little bit deeper with a more personal example from myself. I lived and breathed MMORPGs all throughout high school. I was constantly on Twitter and other forums and YouTube channels commenting and engaging in pretty much everything that I could. As I got older, I did that less and less, and in 2021, I started deleting my social media accounts. It's now 2025, and I no longer have any social media. This was not a change I made specifically for gaming reasons, but I noticed a pretty substantial side effect, and I think it's a positive one. I enjoyed the games that I was playing a lot more. I'm, in a sense, out of the loop most of the time. I haven't seen new videos about the games that I play or tweets about them every day like I used to. I didn't see the latest patch update. I would just hop on Steam and see that New World had launched an update, and I would just go and play. Now, this isn't me telling you that eliminating social media from your life is a positive, though I do think it is a positive. I'm just pointing out that your casual player isn't concerned with many of the issues that the more plugged-in players care about. They aren't interested in the best optimized gear for dungeons. They don't care about what dumb mistakes the developers made. They don't care about the meta or anything like that. They only seem to care about having fun and what is making them feel fulfilled. Again, fun is subjective. Some players have fun optimizing gear, while others have fun destroying people in PvP. Regardless of what activity they enjoy doing, in the long run, it seems that the casual players seem to be able to enjoy themselves more, at least for much longer. They aren't tied down by the meta of a particular game. They come and go from the game as they please, which was a freedom I did not enjoy until a few years ago. I know that I haven't really talked about the sunk cost fallacy that is often attributed to this kind of thing. For this video's purpose, I don't think it's as relevant as it would be in other cases, though I don't want to completely disregard it. Casual players seldom have sunk cost. They're enjoying the parts of the game they want to, and then leaving without much thought. Or in some cases, playing the game casually over multiple years without getting burnt out. This doesn't really come down to age, but more of a lifestyle element. In other words, the casual MMO player does not make their game their lifestyle. It is very much a hobby, perhaps one of many hobbies they enjoy doing. Because of this versatility in activities to enjoy, the casual player seems to be more fulfilled than any other type of player. This is not to pass judgment on one type of player or another, but these findings would tend to point out a more casual approach to MMORPGs would yield a more fulfilling experience for a longer period of time. But in the end, we all move on, right? The game we started our gaming interest on, we barely go back to. In the case of MMORPGs, it's a little bit different. Sometimes we move on from games because the popular game is no longer the one we are currently playing, and we think that just because there are not as many people enjoying the game, that it must not be very good, or it might be a dead game, or there has to be a reason why not as many people are playing as they used to. There are a lot of ways you could go with this, but if you perhaps changed your approach to how you play MMOs, would you enjoy them more? If you took a step back and didn't read that forum post about a change someone didn't like, if you would just watch a trailer for an expansion without immediately going to the comment sections to see what other players were saying, this is your gaming experience. It's not mine, it's not anyone else's, it's your own. I believe we often get our experiences confused, or at the very least entangled with online discourse and experience of other players. While there can be shared experiences across various players, it's important to remember that everyone plays an MMO for a different reason. When I was a teenager, I would play them to escape the real world. Even as an adult, I still use them as an escape from time to time. That is a normal thing. Everyone has something they need to escape to at various points in their life. But as I grew older, I realized that I didn't need the escape as much or for as long as I did in previous years. That's partially because I enjoy doing other things outside of playing MMOs. I write, I read, and work out. My wife and I enjoy a host of other activities together. Gaming is one of the few hobbies I enjoy on a weekly basis. I've currently been on a New World Eternum phase with a friend over the last 5 or 6 months. We both enjoy very different things about the game though. My friend enjoys PvE and getting the best gear, while I enjoy PvP, player housing, and crafting. I do enjoy fishing as well. We both need a consistent source of coin though, and that's where our paths usually cross. So we run mutated expeditions together about 2 to 3 times per week. I spend about 6 hours, if that, a week playing New World, and those are some of the best gaming hours I've experienced in an MMORPG in over a decade. I might get to 2,000 hours playing New World Eternum, but that might take me 5 to 8 years to do, and that's perfectly okay. I don't have this fear of missing out. I'm both the ideal and worst type of New World player, or MMO player in general now. I always play for the seasonal content, though I do not purchase the season pass, as that is not where my enjoyment of the game lies. So not only do I not spend real world money on the game, I play it casually. So even if there was a sweeping change to the game, it normally does not have an effect on me, if not a very small one. If I stop enjoying New World, I will just put the game down. Maybe I'll pick it back up, or maybe I won't. I don't feel tied to games like I used to. I have removed the sunk costs from my playing experience. The only metric that matters to me is, am I having a good time? It doesn't matter if the game is quote unquote dead in the eyes of commenters or content creators. I no longer engage in spaces where, is something worth playing in 2020X anymore? No video can decide for you if something is worth playing. In the instances of technical issues and performance, that is always something to consider before you pick up a game, but that's about it. You don't need me or any other person on YouTube telling you what's fun and what isn't. I think the MMORPG community could use a little more of a let people enjoy things mentality. If you don't like a particular game update, that is fine, and it's your right to express those concerns and critiques. And I am not advocating for some type of toxic positivity about the games you play. Community discussion about things we love and enjoy is very much so important and a way for everyone to continue to connect. I am merely suggesting that these games maybe don't matter as much as we think they do in the moment. Sure, it's something we're currently sinking time into, but guess what? You may not even remember this game 10 years from now, or maybe you'll still be playing 10 years from now. Who knows? All I can say is, I believe the casual MMORPG players might have been right this entire time. I find myself more fulfilled after a play session with this new perspective, and I hope that you can find that as well. It's always fun watching the latest trailer for a new expansion or big patch update, but I would encourage you to maybe not look at the comments and maybe just settle on it for yourself. After watching something that you think you would enjoy, what are you gonna do? Are you going to continue to play it? Or are you going to maybe not pursue it? All of that is up to you. And I think a lot of our gaming experiences are heavily shaped by external factors instead of what we want in our own experience. And that is something that I believe we can take back on our own. I love MMORPGs so much. Even though I don't have the time and honestly don't want to take as much time as I used to back in the day, I love starting a new character, maybe making a backstory for him, and just getting on with my adventure. There is nothing quite like that experience, and maybe I do decide to get into a small guild and make some new friends along the way. But I know that no matter what, the game will be there when I want to play it again. I don't really miss out on anything that I don't set aside time for. If I want to spend time with my friends in the game, I'll see if we can arrange a time. But if I'm gonna play solo for a little bit, I'll play when it suits. If I miss an event or some other game update, that's okay. When you remove the fear of missing out from anything, it makes things more peaceful, and the amount of enjoyment you get out of these games can be so much more than what you previously thought. I hope I've given you guys something to think about as you continue to play your MMORPG of choice. I'm currently, as I said, playing a lot of New World, but I am interested in trying out some other games here in 2025. I would love to know what you guys think of this topic. What type of player do you consider yourself, and what has your experience been in this genre? I would love to hear all of that down below in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Noble, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.